And now this was in the latter part of September. Clarence came back home at that time, and we both decided that we wanted to be married. So it was only about a month later, in October 27, 1945, that we were married. So we had, I didn't sign my contract. I could have, but I knew Clarence would, your grandpa would have no place living in a small town or on a farm. So we decided to have a quick marriage, which we did. We were married in Valley City, Parish St. Catherine's Church by Monsignor. He was Father Dawson at that time, on a Saturday morning, October 27th in 1945. And my sister and her husband were our only attendants. We decided that Fargo was the place that we should try to find living quarters. And at that time, when the servicemen came back, Fargo was thinking of how large it is today. It really was not a large city, and finding living quarters was really serious. But there was a lady by the name of Mrs. Charbonneau right on, I guess it's called Central Avenue, Fargo, is it? Broadway. Had a hotel right upstairs off the street, and she would accept only servicemen and their wives, and that is where Clarence and I lived in our early marriage. We had friends in Fargo, and I also had a dear cousin, and Esther and Ray Ramsey. They were also Clarence's friends, so we walked down the street to look for jobs, and it was almost, thinking of how people look for jobs today, it was so easy. This was early November, and it was during the shop's preparation for Christmas. Clarence walked up to Libby's Food Market and was hired right away. So he went to work at Libby's Food Market, and that was sort of a shop that had a restaurant, bakery, groceries, an all-purpose store. But it was also a store that was noted for Mr. Levy. Oh, there was such a shortage of food items, and like sugar and even meats. I suppose many of the farmers had their children off to war or working. Anyway, Mr. Levy would have Clarence sort of favor doctors and noted people, which really Grandpa smiled at, and there were favorites who could come in and get the things they needed. I went to Herb's department store, which was a big store on Broadway, and I was immediately hired in the bags and purses and that line. I had been teaching, but still I'd never used a cash register, and it was kind of a new adventure for me, but I had no problem, and I rather learned to enjoy working there. And after Christmas, I was transferred to the ladies' department in dresses up on the next floor, where I was employed for the next couple of years. We had a lot of friends as I mentioned, Esther and Ray, but we made friends, and we even attended a ballroom dance which was very formal, and with another couple who invited us to go with them, and it was known as the Crystal Ballroom. We dressed formally. I had to purchase a formal gown. We had corsages, and we participated in the Grand March, and that was one of our early pleasures when we first lived there. But then as time went on, a close friend of Clarence, a buddy, his name was Palmer Melhouse, he wanted Clarence to come back to Valley City, and he had what was known as the Globe Bar. He was very fussy about his bar. He was strict about persons. He didn't care for any roughness, and he knew that your grandpa would be a good fellow to be employed there. So we did move back because that was your grandpa's former home, and he liked his hometown. I couldn't blame him for that. So we moved back home to Valley City, and at that time I was pregnant with your mom, Sharon. And so we were able to move into, Clarence's mother had moved out west. I forgot to mention that. His brother Vernon and his wife had gone out to work. We say everybody moved out there to work in the shipyards, but business was great on the coast, and people could get jobs and be paid well. And that's why Vernon and his wife Gertrude moved out there. She went to work as a waitress and later a cashier, Gertrude, his wife, and his mother followed and worked as a pastry lady in that same place in cutting pastries. And she lived out there up to the time that she passed away, only coming back to make visits. So we moved into her house, a little house on 2nd Street, I think, and stayed there, but it was a house that wouldn't have been, it was small. There had been a fire there, and I think before the fire, Clarence and Vernon's room were upstairs, but after the fire, the stairway changed, and we had one bedroom downstairs. And we knew as time went on we'd need a different home. So we did eventually move from there, and the house was sold.